Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now. On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're gearing up for a ride into the world of precision and performance. Joining us is Satya Kraus, the visionary behind Kraus Motor Co., known for the revolutionary approach to motorcycle engineering. In this episode, we'll delve into the art and science of building high-performance motorcycles that blend functionality with cutting-edge design. Satya will also share insights into his design philosophy, the future of motorcycle engineering, and how Kraus Motor Co. is redefining what bikes can do. So strap in as we throttle up for a journey of innovation and speed with Satya Kraus.
And as I realized that and paid attention to it more and more over my life, I've been able to achieve more. I've been able to be more successful. I've been able to design my life and live my life the way that I felt like I wanted to, rather than just it kind of coming to me or, finding myself in places. I put myself in places. And that's done with, I think, with intention. So,
Satya Kraus, welcome to the podcast, man. We're glad to have you and grateful for you joining us.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here and dig right in with you.
Cool, man. For sure, brother. Definitely a guy that we've always looked up to in the industry. So it's going to be awesome to pick your brain and get to know you a little bit. So I guess the way we'll start it off is, man, how it all started, right? So share a little bit about us, your upbringing, basically how your mom and dad grew you up as a young lad, how you kind of, the things that you've done, were they tough on you? How were your parents when you were a little one kind of growing up, and how has that transitioned now into you being a family man and having kids of your own?
Yeah, sure. So, I was originally born in Brazil, and I moved to the States when I was just very young. Really, almost only about a year old, and we moved pretty much directly to a piece of property in Northern California that my aunt had bought, and it was 80 acres, and it was out in the country. So my upbringing was really in the country, in nature, and and I fell in love with bicycles, anything with wheels early on, and it was all on dirt roads, and big. I had those big wheel, little plastic big wheel.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That you'd lock up the
Rulers.
wheels and slide across.
Oh,
Those are the
to hammer
best.
those things down the dirt roads hard, just fully sideways. And so, I like so many other kids just fell in love with wheels for some reason. Two wheels, really. It was like, got a BMX bike and just spent every day on my BMX bike. And then I started to realize that somehow, we didn't have TV and stuff like that when I was growing up. We were pretty, we had electricity and everything, but my mom wasn't really like one to, bring a TV in the house. She was like, we don't need that. So we were outdoors. We spent, she was like, first thing in the morning, okay, after breakfast, you guys all get kicked out of the house. Kids weren't allowed in the house in the daytime. So that led us to just finding ways to go out and just have fun. And most of the time I spent my time on, on wheels, playing with wheels. And eventually that moved into like the love, for motorcycles. It was early on. I think it was around, 4 or 5 years old. I started realizing there was these things that, had motors and would go fast, and they were just like a bicycle, but you could twist the throttle. And so, I had a little friend with a little, I don't know, it must've been a Suzuki, 50cc bike or something like that. And I got to ride it, and I was young. And that started this deep love for motorcycles.
Nice.
And it was always dirt bikes. And so, I spent the next 4 years or so trying to talk my family, everybody around me into buying me a dirt bike. It was like 12, 9 years. That was like all I could think about, all I could talk about. But I had I had started saving every bit of money I could get a hold of. So birthday money, Christmas money, whatever it was, right? And I would put it in the,
Yeah.
put in the piggy bank. And then by the time I was about 9 years old, I had enough and my dad pitched in a little bit and I finally got a dirt bike. I got a
Nice.
CR80 dirt bike. And this
Sweet.
was like, 80, I don't know, it was maybe a, um, late, late 80s, model. And for the next, I don't know, 4 years or something like that, all I did was rode my dirt bike.
It's
I didn't go to school. I just skipped school. I'd like take off
just
on the
right,
dirt bike
right.
early in the morning and I just disappear. So that was a big one for me was that just, dirt bikes and growing up around dirt
Hmm.
bikes. And then, just having motorcycles around in my life and then in around, I went through different, things throughout kind of career development. I didn't really go to school, dropped out of high school, just didn't vibe really with high school. I went to a little private high school for a little while, but pretty much dropped out of public high school. And then found my way into computer graphic design. I had also
Wow.
been interested in computers
What
early
age
on.
is that?
So
What
Yeah.
age is this?
I got my first computer in 1985, and
Okay.
so I was,
So
10
you're
years old.
young. Yeah, yeah, young.
Yeah, I got one of those first Macintoshes that had, like, a 7-inch screen, black and white screen on it, and I started messing with computers, so I had this kind of background of computers and kinda getting to I don't know, maybe I was 15, 16 in that range. I was really starting to think about computers a lot and like, this is
Mm.
interesting. I like messing with these things. So I kind of went down that direction. And by the time I was about 20, 21, I was working in Silicon Valley, not in Silicon Valley, but with Silicon Valley startups
No shit.
and
Wow.
doing a bunch of web development, early web development. And
Okay.
so I was involved in, the early .com boom in Silicon Valley.
That's cool.
And owned a company, a design company with a couple of other partners, and we were based in Northern California, up north of the Bay Area, but did a lot of work for, companies like the first eBay, uh, kind of before they launched,
Wow.
we did all their graphics, like
No shit.
Match.com, all these
Wow.
big companies that, or companies that turned into big companies. We were, right there kind of on the ground floor.
That's
And,
cool.
so we started building a name and I was liking the work, but I was just in a computer. And when I turned off a computer at the end of the day, all my work went away. I was like, there was nothing I could to hold. There was no tactile feel
Yeah.
to it. It
Right.
was just sitting all on a computer and it was making cool stuff, but it was just, it would go away when I shut the computer off.
Yeah.
And I thought, "Well, this is kind of weird, I just don't want to play with something real. Like I want to do something a little more real, involved."
Hmm.
I had understood at that point the value of content and the value of uh, you know, uh, producing, right?
Yeah.
Producing content, product, design, art, uh, audio, video. I was also into audio production
So
and
in these startups that you were doing with the eBays and the Match.com stuff, what are you roughly around early 20s at that point?
yeah, yeah. I was, I
Right
was,
around there, right?
yeah, I was around 20, 21 years old
Okay.
when that started, and so it was kind of this new thing. It was my first career, really.
Yeah.
It was like, going to meetings, had to put on my, my, stupid button up shirts and my,
Sure.
suits,
Hmm.
and go down to Silicon Valley and have meetings with the angel investors and had to pretend like I was, an adult and all that stuff. And, but I got to a point where it just wasn't doing everything for me, right? Like the money was there. I was like, "Oh, I'm making good money," early in
Right.
my life. I decided to get out of it, and what I did is I bought a bunch of heavy equipment. So I bought tractors. I was out in the country. I was like, I got to get outside, man. I do something outside. Right. So I bought a bunch of
Was
heavy
that kind of
equipment.
inspired from your childhood upbringing, that country kind of
Yeah.
upbringing? You just felt natural to go in
Being in the
to
outdoors,
heavy
I had,
man.
equipment?
and I had a good friend who
You
was
had a
in the
plan?
business.
Oh, friend.
He
Gotcha.
was, yeah, a good friend in the business, and he was pulling in contracts from Fish and Game out in California to go out
Okay.
and rebuild creek systems and roads and stuff like
Cool.
that. So it was an opportunity, and I saw it as an
Yeah.
opportunity. I said, "There's something I can dig into, and I've got a little money saved, and I'll buy some tractors and some,
Nice.
dump trucks and things like that, and go out there and work some dirt." So I started doing that, and I every weekend I found myself fixing the equipment.
Hmm.
Right. And so I learned how to fabricate because I would bring this massive piece of heavy equipment home and I had built myself a little, just a little 1,000 square foot shop just to be able to work on some stuff.
Right.
Bring it home,
Yep.
and I'd be working on my equipment all weekend to get it ready to go out to work again on Monday.
Wow.
And so I learned how to fabricate. But I learned how to fabricate in heavy steel, right? Heavy iron. It was like, big 1/2 inch plate, 1 inch plate, like big stuff.
Big stuff.
Learned how to
Yep.
move metal and really dug into like moving big metal. And it's, being able to flame like, flame bend, and use torches and stick welding and MIG welding and all that kind of bigger fabrication stuff. So that gave me
Hmm.
a kind of a real base for like um, the materials, right?
Hmm.
And then also structure, what it takes. And I used a lot of like my career in heavy equipment, which was I was doing heavy equipment for maybe 6 years or so. Um, I used a lot of that to develop my understanding for the kind of basis of the engineering that I still am involved in. Right. I started
Sure.
understanding metal and understanding what metal could do and how to manipulate it and how to play with it and how to
Sweet.
fabricate it and how to weld it and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And then and I was I was I was home one evening watching TV on the computer, and I saw a commercial pop up for a TV show called Build or Bust. And
Yeah.
this was, I don't remember exactly, this must have been 2004, 2003, 2004. And yeah, 2003. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll check that TV show out because I was into the
Right.
chopper thing. I was into
Right. Right.
biker build off shows, and
Hmm.
it was cool stuff. I was watching it. I was having a good time. I was
Hey,
interested in
before
motorcycles.
you get into that, can I ask you one quick thing? Because you're going towards which I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
D- like, who was? Did you? I know your dad was a machinist, correct?
My dad became a machinist
Became a
after
machinist.
we had
Okay.
started this. Yeah.
So who was the
So he
person
was,
that kind of got you to like that point where you were wrenching and building? Did you basically just kind of pick it up on your own, as you're saying, or did you have
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
who kind of influenced you?
No, I never worked for anybody
Wow,
in
man, you
in
are
this kind of stuff. It was
awesome.
all self-taught. I had grown up in the country, so I had known how to use, tools and how to
Right, right,
do
right.
Yeah.
things. Um,
Hmm.
but it was really just out of passion. It was like, look, I'm interested in this stuff and I got to figure it out. We
Yeah.
didn't have YouTube back
Right,
then,
right, right,
we
right.
Right.
It
didn't
was
have,
trial and error, baby.
yeah. So it was like, maybe I picked up a couple of books here and there, it was just trying to find information and maybe some
Hmm.
friends, who had shops or whatever it is, or visit with people, try to whatever it was, just trying to pull the information in. And then for a lot of it was just trial and error. It was a different thing. I think, we grew up in a
Yeah.
different time when you had to go play, you had to go try something, you had to go break things and mess things
Hmm.
up because you're not going to get it from the start. You can't, like I said, you can't pull up YouTube and watch somebody a step-by-step how-to video on how to do something.
Right.
You got to figure it out.
Got to figure it out.
So a lot of
Yeah.
common sense and a lot of just problem solving,
Yep.
right? Developing problem
Mhm.
solving. You solve problems,
Yep.
right?
So
What's the best way?
you see this show that you got interested on the build off. All right, take us from there then. What takes place? I'm
Okay,
sorry to
so
cut you off. I just wanted to find out how you fit in absolutely amazes me. So
yeah,
kids, if you're listening to this, this man left high school at a young age, did not finish, but studied everything on his own, had the will and desire not to sit on his ass and eat potato chips all day, man, but to learn and get better every day. So just absolutely awesome. Go ahead, continue.
yeah. Yeah, so basically, I had watched that show, and then I was like, okay, I'll watch the show. Well, my wife um signed on to the website for the show, and she wanted to submit me as an applicant to be on that TV show. And she wrote this really, you know, um, girly, kind of cheesy, application. She showed it to me, and I
Mhm.
was like, "No way I'm gonna submit that." Like, these are the cool kids, right? These are the guys with hot rod motorcycles and doing neat
Yeah.
stuff, and like so I put, like, a little one-liner kind of thing out, and I sent it in to the show, and really 6 months, well, I think it was about 6 months later, maybe 4 months later, I got a call, and from somebody, and he was like, "Hey, this is Satya Kraus. Da, 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 da. We got your application. You're in the front running
Nice.
of
Damn.
40,000 other people. You are the top 10 in the top 10 of the 40,000 people."
Wow.
And
Did he give you any feedback as to why?
I think it was just like probably just in the intriguing. I did a little bit. I think I talked a little bit about my upbringing, right? So it was like intriguing.
Mhm.
Somebody is doing something different. Like I had a very
Yeah.
different upbringing than a lot of people, right? I think that was probably intriguing.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
it was definitely not my looks that got me on that show. So it must have been something I wrote.
The girly
But anyway,
the girly note.
yeah. So
Mhm.
they so I was like, yeah, da 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 da. I gave him a little interview thing, and then they disappeared for another, some odd months, 3 or 4 months, and then I got a call, and they said, another call, and they said, "Hey, can you be down here on Tuesday?" And this was like Friday.
Mhm.
"Can you be down here
Jeez.
on Tuesday, down to Los Angeles to shoot this show?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there." So I went down, and I did that show, and and I was on that TV show, and I built the bike in 11 days. Um, got the bike. It was like they called it 30 days, but it was really 11-day filming. I won the
Gosh.
bike, and during that whole process, I met a bunch of people in the industry. I met Gard Hollinger. I
Oh wow.
met Russell Mitchell. I met Dave Hurley. I met all like, thing. There's all these people that I had met on the TV show from the TV show that I then realized that it was about the community that I was interested in. The motorcycles, they're fun, they're great. I love motorcycles, but really there was this really interesting community that I was actually focused on, and
Yeah.
friendships and things like that. And so through those friendships over the years, it was really, pretty quickly over the year or so, I had started building another bike at home in my own shop. I was like, I'm going to build another bike. And, and, those friendships started to pull me into the industry a little bit. Right?
Mm.
And they were like, "Well, come to this event with it. We're gonna go out to Vegas and do this event or whatever." So there was times when I would, you know, hang out with the Eggs Out crew or Guard or whoever it was, right?
Right.
And that was kind of my entrance into the inside of the industry. And I always approached our industry from the inside out. I never had like
Mhm.
a service shop. I never had a customer base that was like a local customer base that then built the business. It was always we built everything we did from the inside of the industry out. So we looked at it from the perspective of, okay, there's some interesting people, some interesting characters, skills, this or that that me or my dad who joined on basically within the first year of kind of like wanting to do bike stuff. And after that TV show, it was pretty quick where I started building another bike and he was like, "Hey, I want to do this with you." I was like, "Let's go do this." Um, so within that first kind of, um, you know, year or so, I had found myself in the right places, right? I
Hmm.
did another TV show with the Exile crew out in Daytona. I had done, I had gun blued an entire bike, and I knew the process of how to gun blue steel and all this stuff.
Wow.
And they wanted to do that for a bike they were building for. I think it was maybe John Mellencamp or something like that. That they were building a bike for. So I went out there, flew out there, and did that show with them. Just little things like that started happening, right? All of a
Nice.
sudden, it was like I found myself in all these little places,
Right.
but it was really focused around, the social scene, the chopper stuff, the whole kind of just the scene that was going on. And it was all fabrication. It was all hand fabrication stuff. I didn't have any machining at that point. I had a little lathe that I
Yeah.
had ran in a little mill and, really not much capability. It was all just, welding and bending tube and grinding and
Hmm.
hammering all the things and stuff. I had uh, worked on my skills for some years and I built a bunch of bikes and we built a bunch of bikes and took them to events and shows over the next few years. And I think that was probably about 2005. We really started 2004, 2005. Um, and then we started building bikes and we build a couple of bikes a year. And by 2000, around 2010, I was like, man, I'm tired. Like I've
Yeah.
built a lot of bikes.
The bikes.
Everything I do, I've got to do my two hands, right? I'm building all the sheet metal. I'm building the frames, full ground up. These are, um, special bikes. I mean, they're $120,000 bikes back then, or more,
Yeah.
$150,000 bikes, and
Mhm.
but they would take anywhere from 4 to 9 months each to build, and
Yep. Yep.
it's just the bike scene. And I started realizing, I started going, man, if I'm gonna really keep doing this as a business, I've gotta figure out how to reproduce what I'm doing in some way.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
spent about a year or 2 really, like, digging into that and going, "What does that look like? What's that in the motorcycle industry?" And I had my buddy Guard, Hollinger, he's like, you know,
He's a
"Get out of the
legend.
motor
He's
industry as fast as you can," that type of stuff. And it was kind of this phase where I was like, "Look, like, I love building stuff and I love fabricating, but I'm at a phase where I've got a young family. I've gotta figure
Mhm.
out how to turn this into some financial
right. Right.
freedom."
Right.
And so I was doing a lot of riding around the country at that time and just, um, spent a lot of time on the road on a Dyna that I had built in 2008, called
Sweet.
Dynamoto. And
Dynamo.
it
Yeah.
was, my really my first Dyna that I really did what I wanted to it, that I
Yep.
customized the body on it. I put an inverted front end on it off of a sport bike. Um,
Sweet.
I did, radial brake calipers all around, all the same stuff that we're doing now. I
Mhm.
originally did on that bike, but that bike was like a hack job, right? That bike was like, hey, I used the triple trees off of that same sport bike and I cut them up and I welded them to get a little different geometry for the Harley, things like that
Sure.
to
Sure.
make it work. I wasn't machining anything. Um, really, except for, bungs and spacers and things like that that you could manually do. Um,
Yeah.
and that's where really the product line started to develop, was I was out on the road and I was hammering this bike at 120-mile-an-hour sweepers, just, having a great time out in the world.
Right.
And, when I had friends that I'd ride with or whatever it was, or just communities involved, and I kept hearing like, "How do I get that stuff? Like, can you build me
Oh shit.
some of that stuff? Can you make me some of these parts?" And for me, it was like, well, I'm sure I could, set you up, or I could build you a set of, this kind of thing or that kind of thing. But I wasn't really super interested in doing one offs. I wasn't
Hmm.
interested in building one of each thing. So that's
Hard to
where I
make
started
money
going,
that way.
"What? I think there's maybe something here." I
Right.
think that people wanna ride their Harleys, people my age wanna ride their Harleys in a different way, and I saw that, when I went out and rode, I was pushing that bike, and I wasn't,
Hmm.
I would say, like, stock is for speed limits. I don't like stock. I'm not gonna ride. I don't like riding a stock bike. When I'm out on a bike, I'm usually pushing it, and I like to stay at least 10, 15 miles an hour faster than traffic. It's just the
Right.
way I ride.
Yep.
It's just safer to, move through traffic rather than sit with it.
That's
All of
right.
those things.
Space it
And
out.
then, I came from when I was young, I was on dirt bikes. I had some sport bikes over the years and done track days. And I had a 98 Gixxer 750 set up for this,
Nice. The track.
the track. I spent a bunch of days on, track days and stuff like that on that. So, um, I knew a broader sense of, motorcycles than a lot of people it seemed
Right.
like in the industry. And I felt like I started bringing that into what I was doing with the bikes. And I started thinking about different products that, you know, um, that might work out, might be good, that people might want. And I started thinking about, suspension and saying, man, what's the one thing on my Harley that is just horrible? I can't stand, suspension.
Yeah.
So started there, developed some great suspension. I had known about Oleans and they didn't really have a product line for V twins at that time. I had grabbed some stuff from some other bikes and brought them over to the Harley side, redid them a little bit, a little different setup on those bikes or
Hmm.
those parts to make them work on a Harley, and then quickly got a relationship going with Oleans, and started doing some development, starting to figure out how to get more applications for the V twins. At the same time,
Hmm.
they were interested in the market, so it was a really good fit. We just worked really
Awesome.
well together.
Awesome.
Look, we need this stuff. They wanted to do it. It was time to go. So
Nice.
we were very involved in a lot of the product development, um, or a lot of the product kind of concept stuff that Olin started doing, and our own products to go with it. It was really fitment products. It was like triple trees, so that you can put these forks on
Yeah.
this bike, right? Or little brackets to do braking systems, and just really it was adapters and stuff, right? It was like we need to adapt this other technology over to Harleys. How do we do that? So I started. I was pretty good with geometry, motorcycle geometry, and understood it pretty well. And so I started kind of bring some of that knowledge and influence with it, with the adapters and adaptation of the technology over to Harleys. And that made a big difference. It was like, oh, I can make this Harley turn. I can make this Harley stop. I know how to set this thing up so that it's balanced properly. And it does what I want it to do,
Right.
did a lot of work on different, wheel sizes and fitments and just really understanding Harleys altogether and how to take this amazing power plant, right? This torquey, awesome power plant and somewhat of a mediocre frame
Yeah.
and build around that into something that we could go out and just hammer, in the corners, on the track, wherever it was. And and then, I had started designing a few parts. I didn't really know CAD. I was really doing like 2D design stuff at that point, just
Hmm.
drawing stuff. And then, but I had got it down to enough. I knew enough CAD. I learned enough CAD that I could start getting some drawings done and get them out to some manufacturers in the US here. I found a couple of small shops that would help me out and had a few parts made from other people. I quickly realized that I was not a good manager. I was not very good at managing a supply chain. I didn't know how to do that, right? I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't have a books engineering background. So I
Mhm.
didn't know the terminology and the language and all of the things that go along with manufacturing.
Yeah.
Manufacturing is very hard.
Mhm.
Um, manufacturing is, a lot of people think that it's, oh, you just stick it in the machine and it
Yeah.
pops
Right.
out.
Right.
There's so many points. There's so many ins and outs and features, and there's so much stuff to think about with manufacturing and to get right with
Mhm.
manufacturing. And I
Big
didn't
time.
know about manufacturing, and so it was quickly learning of what I could and couldn't do. I wasn't getting the quality that I want out of the products when I had other people do them, and
Mhm.
we're doing very small numbers. It was like, hey, I need 10 of these made, right? And
Mhm.
and then we kind of build some orders and people would come in. I had built a website early on too because I knew the web stuff. So I always had good websites.
Right.
That was easy for me.
Mhm.
It's like, oh yeah, Kraus has always has great websites from the start. And we are a big
Mhm.
leader in the web, kind of the web side of our industry
Yeah.
because of my
Right.
background.
Right. Your background, of course.
Right.
And and so
How'd
we
you learn the manufacturing side?
So we were pulling in orders here and there, right? But as I said, I wasn't getting the quality, and I realized
Right.
quickly that I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to managing other manufacturers, managing the supply chain. So I said, I need to buy a machine. I need to buy a
Mhm.
CNC machine, and I need to start figuring out how to do this myself
To your
because
room.
What'd you get?
we bought a Haas machine. We bought a little
Nice.
VMQ Haas machine, mold making machine, a nice machine.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
my dad my dad's, kind of since the beginning, he took a lot of the manual machining side. I was more of the fabrication side, and he was more of the
Mhm.
machining
Machine
side.
inside.
I could machine, but if it was something that was critical, it was like, "Hey, this is a critical bracket. This is a critical piece," or something like that. He would pretty much take that, right? I was
Mhm.
doing a lot of sheet metal stuff, working, molding sheet metal. I was building frames. I was more of the
That's
fabric
not easy.
side.
Yeah.
Well, hard stuff too, but
For sure.
it's just that the kind of the place that I found myself. Since then, I've um, learned to machine. I mean, I spend a lot of time and actually learn quite
Yep.
well how to machine myself and all this stuff too. But really, I took a lot of the design and engineering side of this, and my dad
Mhm.
took on the um, computer aided machining. So I was doing the CAD and design stuff. My dad's
Mhm.
doing the machining, actually making the part on the machine, and so he took that on and became very good at that. Right, became like master
Nice.
quickly.
Yeah.
And we started manufacturing our own stuff. And at that time, we had moved shops off of the property to a little bigger shop in town in a city, Santa Rosa, the local city,
Mhm.
uh, had like a 4,000 square foot shop, and we're able to kind of
Nice.
start producing. And so the next year we bought another machine. And then the year after that, we bought 2 machines. And
Wow.
then the year after
Yeah.
we bought 3 machines. And
Wow.
so we
All
started
Haas?
adding, right? Yeah, we mainly stayed with Haas for quite a few years. Well, so that was 2015, really, we started manufacturing our own stuff. And then by
Mhm.
2018, I was growing out of the shop. We were already growing out of the shop we were in. I was feeling pinched by California. We're a growing manufacturing company in Northern California, and California does not want any other manufacturers.
No.
They don't want any industrial. They don't,
Nope.
right? So we were getting pushed on by our local city. It was hard for us to find employees. People just didn't know there wasn't a big community around there
Right.
for this. And so we started going, you know what? California might not be right for us. I grew up in California. I love California, but I felt things needing to change on our side. And then I also felt California was, just
Yeah. Yeah.
not in great place.
The,
California.
the the most beautiful state in
Right.
the country, hands down, but the worst run state in
Yeah.
the country, hands down.
Ruined, completely
Ruined.
ruined. Right.
Ruined.
Mhm.
So I started digging around and I started following I followed freeways. I followed climate, different
Hmm.
personal interests, and I always loved Utah. Utah was always just a beautiful, amazing place. I mean, we have like 90% of the state is public land, so you can
Yeah.
go out and play. You can ride your dirt bike, go out my front door and ride my dirt bike. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a different state. And so we decided to move to Utah, and we decided that, and then it took us about a year and a half, almost 2 years actually to get here. We moved in late 19. We moved to southern Utah, St. George, Utah
Hmm.
in August of 2019, right before the
Why St.
pandemic.
George?
It was just it fit, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't cold, right? It doesn't get very cold.
Hmm.
It's summer's hot, but I don't mind the heat. I'm all
Right,
about the
right.
heat.
Hmm.
I can
Sure.
ride my dirt bike. There's massive amount of beautiful high desert to ride here. I can, 45 minutes,
Yeah.
an hour, I'm up in the mountains and skiing.
Nice, nice.
I got an hour and a half. If I need
Jeez.
to go to Vegas, I'm an hour and a half away from
Oh,
Vegas.
wow.
So, it was like, okay, this is it. I'm on, Highway 15, pretty major, highway. We got all the services we really needed. You know what I mean? So it was like, oh, this place kind of fit. Um, and I love it out here. Absolutely
Cool.
love it. The business, since we moved, we went from 5 employees. We moved with really it was we had I think 6 or 7 employees back in California. We moved with about 5, 5 of us. Um uh and now we have 20, now we have 30 employees. We
Wow.
have 30
Wow.
employees. We moved with 4 machines,
Wow.
5 employees. Now we have 30 employees. We have 18 machines.
You
18
We have
machines. How big is
you
your
running
facility
you
now?
running around the clock, or are you doing normal
yeah,
hours?
we run 2 shifts. No, we run, 2 shifts a day. So we run from 7 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and then we also run the weekends. And we have a 17,000 square foot manufacturing facility in St. George. Um,
Oof.
and we run, the machines we moved from, we still have a bunch of Haas machines, but we also
Hmm.
run a lot of, Doosan
Tucson.
machines. And so our big machines, which are big horizontal machines, um, they're these monsters with, 50 horsepower spindles, and they have pallets. So they take
Yeah.
these have a big
Pallet changers.
tombstone, a big pallet, right? And you're
Hmm.
manufacturing on that pallet in the spindle, and then when it's done, it moves that pallet out and grabs another pallet full of
Oh,
material
shit.
to
Damn.
cut. And so that
Yeah.
machine has 6 pallets, and
Incredible.
each one of those machines has 6 to 10 pallets, and that thing will just run 24/7. And so
Do you know
even
what
though
model you have so I can throw it up on the screen?
what's that? Do we have what?
Do you know what model the pallet changer is so I can throw it up on the
Well,
screen?
that one is, our pallet changers are Doosan NHP 4000
Sweet. That's a
with
badass machine.
pallet changers, right? And so we've got 2 of those. We've got a Matsura MX330
Yeah.
with a 10 pallet changer, which is a 5-axis pallet machine. We've got some
Mm.
other 5-axis DVF 5000 5-axis machines. Um,
So cool.
so we've got some Haas stuff. So we've got some lathes. We got 4
Are you
lathes.
training your new guys, the guys that once you set up shop and you hired a new crew, are you training these guys? Set up shop and you hired a new crew. Or are you kind of
So
bringing in guys and
one of the
teaching them
reasons
your way?
one of the reasons I liked St. George was it was a developing manufacturing town,
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
and or this area, and they have a couple of schools. So they have a Dixie Tech school, which is training young kids to come out of high school, out of college to work in the manufacturing industry, and so we got it. We grabbed a couple of good operators from that school, just, other shops in town, people moving around, things like that. Over the years, I mean, it was, we train them. We started with 1 new employee, And then, there's another new employee or 2 new employees. And so it's a growing thing, right? It's
Yeah.
not all at once. We worked really well, super efficiently when we were around 12 employees. That was like
Hmm.
rocking. Shop was
Nice.
doing killer. We had, I don't know, maybe 2 dozen machines in that range. Um, but, but we were very efficient. So you
Yeah.
go through different phases. We have 30 employees now. We have
Right.
18 machines. There's
Right.
certain efficiencies in certain areas and not as much efficiency in other areas. The other thing about our company is that we chose to do everything ourselves, right? So we don't
Mm.
outsource anything really.
Any-
We bring in raw material and we ship out packaged finished goods out of our
Nice.
one facility. We have several many different departments within our company. We've got our R&D department, which handles all of the concept design, prototyping, um, uh, fitment, any type of testing stuff. R&D will do. We've got manufacturing
Mhm.
department, our production department, and then we've got our assembly department. So anything coming out of manufacturing is going to go into assembly and start getting assembled into sellable product.
Mhm.
Hardware is added, multiple pieces put together to actually make a usable
Right.
assembly, sellable assembly.
Mhm.
Got obviously our warehouse fulfillment and shipping department. And then we've got our own marketing department. We do all of our own in-house marketing, content development. I've got a couple of great, great guys, that are just amazing artists and can produce that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Um, our sales department, we've got really four main in-house in our sales and revenue department. And then we've got some reps. We've got 6 reps out there, around the country now. So, you
Wow.
know, it we've got our administrative department, which has 3 people in it, which, handles everything, that the business needs,
Yep.
purchasing, right? All of the various bits and pieces. And it's just a big, it's a lot going on, right? And when you decide to do everything yourself, which is very different, back in the 70s, the US decided to start offshoring everything, right?
Mhm.
Mm. They, whoever it was, the lawyers and the unions, um, they started to realize that, hey, there's more money in the middleman than there is in manufacturing side or actually having to do anything. And
Yeah.
it really changed our country. Um, and
Mhm.
it's changed the people in our country. And it was really a big goal of mine to not only achieve success myself in what I was doing, but also try to
Mhm.
create more um, uh, momentum for U.S. manufacturing and
Awesome,
do
man.
my
Let's
part.
go.
Um,
Yeah, man.
I saw that I see it as a major problem. I see it as, I've always been kind of like, why would we send that out if we can do that in house, right? Why doesn't it make more sense to own the machines ourselves and have the knowledge ourselves and be able to do it ourselves and not rely on anybody
Right.
else? Hate having to rely on anybody else. During the pandemic, and we had some supply chain issues, we have these, little locks that go with some of our kits for your steering lock. And it was just an
Mhm.
item we couldn't get. It was just like, we can't get this thing. It's not possible in the world right now to get this item. And,
Yeah.
we found a way around it. We just basically were like, look, that's not available anymore. That's what we decided to do. We could have went through and tried to make it and try to, but at some point it's like you're setting yourself up for either failure or loss or um, being incomplete if you're relying on too
Yep.
many people, if you're relying on
Mhm.
other
How,
companies, if
how
you're
many
relying.
how many businesses just in our industry alone that completely dependent on outside suppliers for their inventory to sell the product, how many of them closed their doors during the pandemic when they couldn't get product no longer? I mean, just it was insane. I couldn't believe how many businesses were just like,
Yeah.
Closing
Yeah.
doors.
It's wild. I mean, the amount of businesses that have changed, shifted, went out of business, things like that. It's just wild to watch. So
what,
we
what,
really, the
what?
pandemic for us was really a wake up call too to
Yeah,
that. And it was like, okay, wait, like we are doing the right thing. The
Mm.
direction we're on is correct. And that just proved it to us. We ran the whole time. We didn't shut down at all. We
nice.
didn't do anything during the pandemic. It was, and we're also in Utah, so it's a red state. It's very different, right?
Thank
But
God.
we just full on. And that was and it proved out that the theory that we were on, the direction we were on was correct. So really, the pandemic showed us that, hey, we got to do our own thing, and we got to be strong, right? And we got to have a great supply chain. We got to be able to produce what we are saying that we can and will produce. And so the machines that we were buying during that phase over the last couple of years, the way that we've made alterations and shifts to the business and this and that to really make sure that we kept that security within the company. And we're at a place now that, we get raw aluminum, we got power, we got coolant for the machines. Um, hey man, we can operate, we can make parts. So the impact of the pandemic was interesting for us because it helped us identify a lot of the things that could disrupt, and we're seeing it disrupt other people. And so we're in a great place. It was that, it worked out really well for us because we made a lot of decisions. We made a lot of investment over the last couple of years back into the company, machines, people, processes. We just like this year we've spent the last 9 months building ERP system, which we're about to implement. So it's a massive uh, enterprise system that incorporates all the departments and all the processes within all departments, and kind of links everything together, right? So we have high level view of our reporting,
Mhm.
of our production, all the way through to our accounting. So developing those things within the company, I saw those as being just building a robust system, and that's really worked out well. So now we're really in a position where we are um, we are able to produce on a super high quality level, but also on
Yeah.
a very high production level. And
Gotcha.
so the amount of product that we're able to produce is massive, and that goes in line with a lot of the R&D developments that we've put in place, the crew that we've put in place.
Sure.
We're starting to think about working with other companies to help them out with some things. I'm talking to
Mhm.
San Diego Customs right now, where we have a program
Nice.
we're working on right now to do some stuff with them. So we're starting to
Cool.
take this ability that we've developed um, in manufacturing
Mhm.
and design, engineering, and figure out ways to start to spread it out a little bit into the industry more.
That's awesome. Like almost like
And
franchising without franchising, right? Sending out your products, being supplying the other companies to sell the product. That's awesome, man. Good for you, buddy.
And COVID kind of spurred that along.
Yeah, well, we saw that, people had problems with supply chains,
Big time.
and if you're relying on your Taiwan to get your container here full of your foot pegs or whatever it is, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and it's held
It's
up
a
in the
silver
dock,
lining.
it just doesn't work. So we're able to do it here. And, we're competitive. We've built competitive systems. It's always going to be cheaper to go overseas not always, but it is still
It
cheaper
is.
to go overseas, right? But you're not going to get the same quality. You're
No
not going to
way.
get the same type of
Hands
material.
down.
You're
Right.
not gonna get the same, type of, product as far as the finish goes, as far as the tooling lines and tooling paths goes, overall,
Mm-hmm.
fitment and stuff. We just see
Mm-hmm.
so many problems with, competitive product or even partner product that still use overseas manufacturing. And so we're trying to build a system that says, "Hey, like, get rid of the reliance. And if you're really
Mm-hmm.
committed to this industry and committed to these motorcycles that we're doing, you will find a way to afford this kind of gear. It's more expensive. Our stuff is more expensive, and it probably always will be a little more expensive.
That's right.
But there's a lot comes
You
along
pay,
with
you
it, and so
pay,
the
you get what you pay for. So, I mean, that's the reality of it.
value carries the
Especially,
value.
yeah. And especially when you're
Yeah.
talking about things like, you know, handling, performance. I mean, handling, especially because Harleys are heavy bikes. They're notorious for wobbles at high speeds. And I mean, the things that you're bringing in is to be able to have that bike hit to hit speed limits that it's really not supposed to without it
Mm-hmm.
feeling like, you
Yeah,
know, anybody
yeah.
who's driven the Harleys at high speeds understands that one. So,
Yeah, I mean, the thing for us is what we're trying to do and what we really started with was we wanted to build confidence.
yeah,
So
awesome.
coming
Yeah.
from, well, motorcycles, I mean, the one thing that I look to whenever I think about performance, whenever I think about, really handling or really like enjoying the motorcycle, I think about confidence. If I'm confident on a motorcycle, if I'm confident with what that bike can do, even if it's not the most high performing equipment out there, if I know what it can and can't do, then I know how far I can take it. And there's confidence really makes the difference, right? If you get on a racetrack and you're on a bike that you're just a little unsure about, you're not going to push it. You're not going to take
Yeah.
it to the same level that if you're confident with a bike. So it's not really, I mean, it's about confidence in your machine, but it's also the way that that machine responds to you and how you respond to that machine. And that was my main focus was about how do I build confidence for the rider?
Right.
And we
Mm.
started that with suspension and braking. And those were the things that I really was like, these are major problems. We need to fix this stuff. But what I quickly realized what it was that it as the industry started to develop and as Harley Davidson and Indian started producing bikes that you could be confident on, that
Mm-hmm.
that some of the new Harley stuff is just, they're great bikes. I mean,
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
downfalls, but they're great bikes. They're very different than the stuff we used to ride. And so
That's right.
with that
Yeah.
technology improvement from the OEMs, I said, what can I do to start to not rely on someone wanting to put an inverted front end on a bike that is affecting everybody out there. And when I'm 5'5", I'm small guy, right? I walk into a Harley dealership and I sit on a bike, and every single one of those bikes is going to be too big for him.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so, you've got a guy who's 6'5", 6'3", whatever. He walks into a dealership, and every single one of those bikes he sits on is going to be too small for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's there's never a good fit for a OEM bike because you have to spread across the entire field, right? And so
That's right.
Yeah.
I started looking at ergonomics and started looking at rider setup, the cockpit, the places that the rider touches the bike were important to me. I said, when I'm on a bike, what's important to me? My controls. I want my levers and my grips and my hands in the right places. I want my feet in the right places. I want my ass in the right place.
Right.
It was all those points that I engage with the motorcycle. If I'm in the right position, then I can get that motorcycle to do what I want it to do. Even if that
Mm-hmm.
motorcycle isn't, the best thing out there, even if I'm on stock equipment, I can still get that motorcycle to perform and I can have confidence in it. If I'm on the street, if I'm in traffic and I'm hammering through, traffic and somebody pulls out in front of me or somebody, changes lanes in front of me, how can I react? What am I going to do to get around that car? Um,
Mhm.
and that to me comes down to my body position, my rider position, how I'm engaging with the motorcycle, right? It's very few times that you are in a position that you need a set of um, a $4,000 set of Brembo um
Yeah.
brake.
Breaks, yeah.
Right? I mean, if you've got to stop that fast regularly,
Yeah,
what's a problem, right?
that's a
So
problem.
it's not
Mhm.
necessarily always about the equipment. It's about how we set the equipment up, right? And you can start looking at different stages and, you get your kind of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 things with all of the performance stuff as well in all, ergonomics, suspension, braking, all the way through. Um, but we really started realizing that it was about, ergonomics. Like these bikes need ergonomics. And these
Absolutely.
bikes need to be set up when you go to customize a bike, you're customizing this for yourself. When you go into a Harley dealership or into your local shop or whatever it is to go buy a bike or to set yourself up on a bike, you're gonna sit on that bike, you're gonna feel it. And, you know, you want to tune that bike and you want to customize that bike for yourself, right? You wanna go, "Okay, what am I gonna do to that thing to shift it, to make it
Yeah.
my own?" The first
Mhm.
place you should start is rider setup. It's you being you sitting on that bike, you fitting on that bike in the right way. And that what that does is that builds confidence. And confidence then builds speed, it builds performance. And so having the confidence within your bike, the equipment you're running on your bike is number 1. And there's
Mhm.
information that comes along with that as well. When you're researching, an upgrade, a product, or whatever it is, where are you getting that information from, right? And that
Mm.
was another thing that we started realizing that there's a lot of information here that people need. And so that's lately what we're really focused on is like, how do we take this information that we have, developed, that we have involved ourselves with, that we have been in conversation with the community over the last decade. How do
Right.
we take that, get it out to get it out to our community so that people can change their experience so that they can have the best experience they can possibly have. How do we get them to have a great experience, right?
Yep.
Experience on a motorcycle, experience around a motorcycle, experience when they're working with our company, experience when they're working with our partners, you know, our a shop that we're recommending, maybe one of our dealers or something like that, that we're recommending for them to go have their installs done, things like that. What's the experience like? And and how can we overall improve the experience of the motorcycle community?
Mhm.
And I think that's the basis for everything that we do and we try to do at Kraus is create a better experience, create an amazing experience.
That's
And
awesome.
what do you get? Where's the value? Where's the value? I I have bikes that are dress up bikes, right? I have bikes that have beautiful, multi-thousand-dollar paint jobs on them and stuff like that too. But for me, it was
Mhm.
never really about that. It was never, I mean, I like a good looking bike.
For sure.
Like if I'm on a bike, I'm gonna make it
That's
good
right.
looking, right? But if it doesn't have any functionality and it doesn't really do anything to change the functionality of it, then it's probably not something I'm gonna do first.
Yeah.
And so really comes down for me to, again, setting things up for the correct experience that I'm trying to have or I'm trying to portray to my customers or
Can
my friends.
can I ask you a question regarding this? Now, I know you've teamed up with Olin's, right? You guys do a lot of work together. Um, I think the last time we spoke, you had mentioned that you also deal with Harley Davidson and Indian, where you come in and kind of talk to them about certain things within their program. Is that still happening, or you kind of
A little bit. I really haven't had that much communication over the years with Harley or Indian. We've done a couple of projects here and there over the years, um, but it's pretty minimal. And Harley has turnover too. It's like
yeah,
there's,
huge, huge.
um, you know, most people at Harley, they're there for 2, 3 years,
Yeah,
and so there's a couple people that I know that have been there for a long time, and some product management type of people and designers and stuff like that, and have some communication with those guys, but not very much really. We're kind of outside of that scene a bit. There's a lot of guys like the Suicide Machine guys are really tied in with Harley. Saddleman's got their team now, and they're
okay,
very tight. There's some people who are a little, pretty well tied in with
I
Harley and
understand.
and do a lot of their projects. We've never really done that.
Gotcha.
We've never been that involved. Indian, I have done a couple of projects with Indian over the years as well. Same thing, like, hey, they want us to do a build or something like that on one of their new bikes, and we've done that.
That's cool.
Um, it's not as much involved in the aftermarket at all, not as much involved in the aftermarket. There's a few conversations here and there, but it's pretty removed. I have some conversations with, my buddy at Screaming Eagle, and we talk about some of the things going on, but it's really like, Kraus is on its own. Kraus is
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
its
yeah,
own
man,
thing.
for sure.
OEMs are over here, and really our connection with Harley is through the dealerships.
With the
So
dealerships.
we work with quite a few dealerships around the world, and
Mm.
we really communicate with a lot of the community through the dealerships as well. Um, Independent shops too, but for Harley specific, it's mostly through the dealerships. Yeah.
You guys are both dealer incentive and private consumer incentive, right? So you
Yeah. So
deal both with like drag and those guys, and then in addition to somebody
no,
off the street can no.
no, what we do is so that's another thing a different direction that we took compared to the rest of the industry.
Cool.
This
Cool.
industry has primarily, and the power sports industry has primarily been a distributor type of industry. It's a distributor network. All the manufacturers, all the brands, they go to a distributor. The distributor buys their product basically, right, in bulk,
Yeah.
and then warehouses it and then ships it out to the dealers as the
Mhm.
dealers need it, right?
Yeah.
What we did is we never worked with a distributor before. We went direct to consumer, um, and we went to direct to dealer wholesale channel. So we have our own dealer network. We have
Got
our
it.
own relationship with Harley dealerships.
Got it.
We don't go through a catalog. When they
Gotcha.
pull up Kraus, they pull up the Kraus catalog. They don't pull up the drag catalog or
Nice.
anybody else.
Nice. Gotcha.
Um, it's we retain a certain amount of margin to be able to do that, right? Where there's another middleman that we can cut out so we can produce better equipment for our customers. We don't have to go to overseas to get the product to try to make the margins so that you can
Yeah, that's
actually
huge.
work. And so our whole business model is very different than a lot of what the motorcycle industry has been for many years.
That's
And
awesome.
it's a big differentiator from us to other brands in this same space. Most other brands, I mean, there's a few in kind of the performance B-twin scene now that are manufacturing for themselves, or at least manufacturing stateside with partners. But overall, yeah, it's very different. So our whole distribution system is very different. We we work closely with our dealerships. We support our dealerships in different ways. We build programs with
Mhm.
our dealerships. The dealerships that carry Kraus to try to help support their communities. Um,
That's
and
awesome.
and the DTC channel stuff, we've done very little, over the years. the company has, so one thing about Kraus, we've never really done any advertising. You won't see, any web advertising or anything like that coming from Kraus. We've never done any Google.
Have you ever had to consider it?
Um,
Like
I don't
pandemic
know.
time, any time?
No, I mean, there's been a couple of times, over the years where it's like, oh, things are getting tight.
Close, yeah.
Um,
Right, right.
Yeah.
we've always been, pretty good about, um, keeping a good operating capital and,
Hmm.
things like that. And having a,
The testament.
again, when we manufacture our own gear, we buy raw material. We don't buy a container full of foot pegs,
Right.
right? We buy enough material to cut 100 sets of foot pegs at a time. Right
That's
now, we
a
buy more than that. But this is, over the years, that's what we developed, right? So we can keep our, we can manufacture lean. We can keep our operating costs down in a lot of ways and put that stuff, kind of span that out. And so when you manufacture in this way, you get a kind of a different need for financing, right?
Mm.
A lot of companies nowadays, they need their financing, they need their operating capital, and a lot of companies are doing that through financing.
Hmm.
We've never done that. We have never taken on major debt. We've never, pulled anybody else in. I'm 100%
That's
owner.
incredible.
Um, and we've done that because we've taken the slow paced
Mm.
plan. We've been
Yeah.
patient. We've said, you know what, this is going to take years for us to get this
Yeah.
right. And, and it's going to have to take years because we're not
Hmm.
willing to give it away. We're not willing to, to borrow money. We're not willing to take on someone else's capital to make that,
Yeah.
project happen. It's just going to take long.
And you
So
keep yourself as the person making the
right.
decisions. There's no pressure from investors. You've done it right the first time, and to maintain that integrity. That's very
exactly.
clear.
And we saw, I've had friends who own other companies in this industry and I've watched them, go the distributor route and then things shift and them have to, sell portions of their company or buy back portions of their company or whatever it was, you know what I mean? It's just, um, you know, for me, there's always kind of like a pride of doing it myself. And then also a security factor of like, I'm not going to put myself in
Yeah,
that position. I,
sure.
you know, I grew up with no money and
Right.
Hmm.
I don't want to go there again.
Yeah, man.
So how do
And
I,
country ingenuity.
yeah. Um, well, so, so the dealers, our dealers, our DTC network, the DTC stuff, we've never done any advertising, but we are starting to figure out how to communicate better with our consumers, with direct to the consumers, and social media has helped
How
with
so?
that a lot.
Yeah, social
Well,
media. What else?
yeah, but just, having open channels of communication. So through our
Hmm.
website, we have a good phone system. If you call Kraus,
That's
uh,
huge.
you will get somebody picking up the phone, right? And if they can't
That's
pick
a
up the
game
phone,
changer.
one of our 3 or 4 people who answer phones can't pick up the phone, we ask you to leave a message and they're gonna call you.
Call you back. Yeah.
They're gonna call you back within a certain time frame. If you send us an email, you're going to get an email back. If you ask us
Mm.
about, hey, I've got a, you know, I've got a 2000, Ford Dyna, and I'm trying to put a 2006 wheel on my 2004 Dyna. Is that possible? And how do I do it? We're gonna have an answer for you, right? We're gonna
How
help
do you do that?
figure out how
How
to
do you
do.
do that?
Well, that's
You've
what.
got people on the phones,
Trained,
but
trained,
are they
trained
asking,
technicians.
yeah,
Yeah,
hey, Satya, I
yeah,
need help.
a lot of information and our staff. I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't go to me anymore.
Hmm.
Occasionally I see something that'll come to me and they'll say, hey, somebody's got this, kind of oddball question about this or that. And, I'll look at it, but most of the time it's our support staff and we've got great support staff that we've trained over the years and they
It's
understand the
amazing.
product and they understand our fitments. And we've done a great job of documenting, these things as
Mhm.
well on our own internal servers and
Nice.
internal data systems. And so,
Another benefit of your background in web development,
yeah,
you
and
know how to handle that. That's huge.
exactly. If they need, fitments for, let's say, brake caliper hardware, they pull up the brake caliper hardware document and you've got a spreadsheet that shows all your
Perfect.
fitments. And so that stuff exists within the company. And we've put, just decades of work into developing and keeping that stuff and being able to access it. And so, um, again, it comes down to what experience are we providing for the
Mhm.
community and what can we give to the community, right? And that's, I think,
Yeah.
the trade is, business is a weird thing, it's very strange, selling things, money, just the whole monetary system is just a strange thing. And I think if you approach it with what value are you providing, you have a different outlook than just I'm trying to make money,
Right, right, right.
right? It's one of
Yeah.
those, it's like, um, you know, make something cool and don't worry as much if other people are gonna dig it and like it. Just do your thing, have some passion and enjoy it. And, if people start to like it, then think about turning it into something, right?
Yeah.
And, um, and I think that, we miss that a lot. A
It's
lot of people
huge.
want, wait, I gotta
Mhm.
do this. This is a business. And obviously, we all have to pay our rent. We all have to,
Right.
afford our lifestyles. But I think we get caught up. A lot of people get caught up in like, that the, the idea behind this is about, making money. And,
Right.
and that's what we do is we just care about
Yeah.
making the money. And
Yeah.
it's, it,
Can
that only lasts so long.
can I ask you a quick question on this? And it's kind of going back into part of this what you've been talking about, but it's kind of more of a detailed question. Is everybody sees Kraus, they see Satya as this bike builder, incredible businessman at a good young age. In any time during this time, like nobody understands the blood, sweat, and tears, right? And that's what we're talking about. Everybody sees the money. They don't see what the everything in between of 18-hour nights and days and then coming home exhausted and working 7 days a week and missing out on certain things here and there. Was there ever a time like through this process where you were just like, man, what the fuck am I doing? It's like I'm cooked.
Oh yeah.
Like was there like
Oh yeah.
take us through that moment that you were like at that breaking point? Because yes, the success part is phenomenal, brother, no question, man. I'm your biggest fan, but just like I just feel that a lot of people always think about the money and they don't understand what it takes to get there, and that's what I'd love to hear. That
Yeah.
moment in time where you were just like,
Yeah. There's been several, quite a few of those actually. And it's a struggle. Like, this is all a struggle. The whole thing's been a
big
struggle.
time.
I mean, sometimes I do ask myself, I'm like, why did I choose to do this? Like
Right.
what was I, I heard something at some point, somebody said, hey, you ever want to make money? Don't make anything. Right.
That's somebody's advice.
You ever want, don't make anything. And that's completely not what I did. I decided to make everything.
Right.
And so, I still am way better at spending money than I am making money. That's for sure. Um, you know, I think definitely over the years there's been several like points of kind of like forks in the road. Either we're gonna go right, and we're gonna do this, or we're gonna go left and we're gonna do something completely different.
Right.
There's been several times that
Yeah.
that's happened over the years, and there's been some critical points within the company that we've had to make some major choices. I mean, I've had to sell my cars to pay employee, paychecks.
And that
things
shit
like that
people
over
don't understand. They don't know that.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like, my Ferrari. I'm talking about
No,
like
no.
my,
Yeah.
my
Right.
Land Rover, my pickup truck. You
Right.
know, um, I'm not I have a bunch of really nice motorcycles, but um, I'm not a big like, I'm not a big like I don't need a massive house. I don't need, to drive the fanciest brand new car
Right.
around.
Right.
I wear a sweatshirt and jeans and you know what I mean? I'm a t-shirt and,
Yeah.
jeans guy. You know what I mean? It's like a
Hmm.
simple
You
stuff.
you don't walk
And
around in your Versace suit all day long?
I'm not into that kind of stuff.
No shit, man.
So
You're a grinder, man. You bend fucking
yeah,
steel. There ain't no suits
yeah,
coming on unless it's
yeah, I'm
special
bored
occasions.
most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, I got stains on my pants and you know what I mean?
Of course.
I'm just plugging away. I'm on the
Right.
floor, I'm sweeping the
Grinding.
floor. I'm crawling under the thing, trying to fix the thing.
Yeah.
It's just, it's real life. So yeah, it's a struggle, it's a lot of stress, been a lot of stress. I mean, I'm not that young. I'm 48 years old now, right? I feel like,
Depends who you're asking.
I feel like
Hey,
I've
hey,
put
hey.
a lot of wrinkles and gray hair,
Yeah, yeah.
on
The body
over the
starts
last
to hurt,
few
man. All this shit
yeah,
catches
and
up, man. All those falls and all the things in the shop and this and bending this and lifting the engines in and all it all catches up, man.
yeah, and the
It kind of
stress.
speaks to your passion too, though, because you've got speaking of stress, you're probably in a position where you could start to remove yourself a little bit from the business, but that speaks to your passion too, that you're plugged into it. You're keeping stuff domestic. You're checking all of your systems and processes and keeping an eye on that. But the old adage for entrepreneurs is working on your business versus in your business. And it sounds like you've got an awesome blend of both.
Yeah, man.
And the in your business is satisfying that passion aspect, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. The changes that I've been able to make is bring in great operational people and operators,
Huge.
operational
Yeah.
managers and operators, and take the load off. Right when we moved to
Hmm.
St. George, it's like I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and heading into the shop and running machines all day.
Grinding. Yep.
And and
Yeah.
on the weekends I do my design work or at night or whenever I could get it done. You know what I mean? So it was and, it wasn't just running machines. It's everything, cleaning the bathroom,
Of
sweeping the
course.
floors. I mean, everything you got to do. Right. And building the shop, building the facility. Like I don't hire riggers to rig my machines. If I
Hmm.
go buy a new machine, it's a $500,000 machine coming in
Yeah.
on semi.
Yep.
I'm the one
Yep.
forklift. I'm the one pulling the machines off the truck and bringing them into the
Yeah.
shop and setting them on the floor and leveling them and installing the power and,
But you enjoy that, don't you?
oh yeah, totally. That's what I
Yeah.
love, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So cool.
all of it. And that's what keeps me going is being every day there's new challenges and every day there's growth and every day there's new things. It's not monotonous at all. And I
Mhm.
think that's a big one for me is, there's so much to do and the excitement is absolutely still there. And I love, I love what I do. I'd like to spend more time doing the creative work and spend more time doing, design work. I mean, I stay ahead of the crew with design. I'm still um, main designer. I have two other guys that are helping me out now. Actually, one
Mhm.
of them is my son. Um,
No way.
but
How old's
How
your
old is
son?
he?
he's 21.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, he just graduated the college here, Dixie State. He graduated with a mechanical engineering degree.
Nice.
And he grew up around this stuff, so he knows it well. He knows motorcycles.
You got you got 3 generations, man. That is
Yeah,
so cool. Got
yeah,
your dad, your son. Man.
yeah. It's great. And so he's got I mean, he's just on a whole different level as far as the engineering, the smarts go. Um,
Wow.
and so he's taken on a lot of the R&D management. And then also he also has a hand in internal systems. So like our ERP system and stuff like that. He takes on a lot of that. He's doing automation implementation on the manufacturing floor. So we brought in some robots to help run
Wow.
machines and things like that. So he's integrating those robots into the machines and programming and stuff like that. So I'm starting to be able to bring in, people over the last few years and plug in the right people and then find ways to remove myself.
Hmm.
And also not just remove myself, but also get the advantage of having other people involved, which you get different opinions, you get different ways of
Hmm.
working, you get different knowledge in different areas, you get skills in different right. So, you know, I can do a lot, but I'm not going to be that great at doing this over here, and someone else is going to do this way better than me. So when you get to a point where
Hmm.
you actually you can afford and you can find the right person, you can plug them into that position. All of a sudden, it's like you hit the launch button.
Yeah,
You got
man.
the you got
Hmm.
the got the afterburner on,
Yeah.
because now you've
Yeah.
got them focused on, and then I can focus on what I need to be focusing on,
And that's what
which,
good
Yeah.
and
is
that's what great leaders do, man. They put the right people into the right positions so they can concentrate on other aspects of the business. And I mean, to have a crew with as many people as you do, and yet still be hands on, but yet that's speaks volumes, man. That's why your products, your reputation in the industry is what it is, brother. I mean, it's just doing everything the right way and making sure that all the customers that do help grow your business are always a part of this. You're always involved with, like you were saying, getting back to them. And it's not just this money collecting bullshit like most of the businesses out there. So, I mean, just
Hmm.
hats off to you, my man, for sure.
thank thank you. Yeah, it's been a real a super interesting experience and ride
Yeah.
the whole time. I mean, it's been amazing. I've gotten to participate in so much just amazing events and fun stuff and fly around the world and meet such interesting people. And it's just extraordinary, the life that this has given me, the experience. It's hard. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
man.
always, life is hard, man. Doesn't matter what you're
Hmm.
doing, life
That's
is
right,
hard.
man.
It's just different
Hmm.
scales of it. Business is hard. Business is hard when you're a small business. Business is hard when you're a medium business, and I'm sure business is hard when you're a big business.
That's right.
And it's
Hmm.
just on different scales. And part of dealing with it, figuring out how to deal with it, growing from a small business to more closer to a medium business is um is um kind of, yeah, just figuring out how to deal with the stress, figuring out how to let go of things and say, "You know what? Like, I've seen this before, or I've experienced something similar to this, and I know I'm gonna get through it. I know that we're
That's
gonna get
huge.
through it, right? It's not detrimental. It's not something that is, um, that's a make it or break it." And you find ways to minimize those things, right? You find ways to put in security in places so that those things don't happen again and
Right.
again. And if you learn from your experiences, and you find ways, you learn how to make good decisions, thoughtful decisions, um, it makes a big difference.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm focused on. And I intentionally dug right in and said, "Man, I need to figure out how to make good decisions. Like, I need to know what
Hmm.
that is." And
Right.
this is throughout my life. I've had phases where I go, "You know what?" But I remember distinctly years ago, I said to myself, "I need to figure out how to make good decisions, because that's what this depends on, is the decisions that I'm going to make on a daily basis, the big decisions, the small decisions. And if I do that well, um, I'm going to have an advantage." And,
Hmm.
so, understanding the way that my personality, um, understanding my own personality, understanding my identity, understanding the way that I'm going to look at things, my downfalls, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Um,
Strengths and
you know, I-
weaknesses. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not an organized person. My desk
Really?
is not
No
an
kidding.
organized desk. I
Hmm.
have a very I know where it's at, but nobody else can
Right,
find
right,
it.
right, right.
I have all of I have several desks. I have several shops now, and I have things spread out all over the place, and I'm just not that's not my strong point.
Right.
And
Hmm.
and I had to realize that, and I had to learn that, and I had to figure out how to be okay with it and how to shift what I was doing and the things around me to work within that system
Hmm.
and not let it affect,
Right.
other people around me in a negative way. And so, there's just little things that you pick out in your personality or whatever it is. And the key is to constantly try to develop and try to be a better person, try to do things better and to think about the people around you and the way that you're engaging with the people around you, I think is really a big part of it. And that when I started really digging into that stuff, and I mean digging in, I mean reading books, reading
Yeah.
books about these things and really trying to figure out some background knowledge and
Yep.
understanding it from others' perspectives. I
Hmm.
really started seeing big changes happen within the business, within myself, within my family, within my personal life,
Yep.
all of those things when I started
Awesome.
really paying attention to what the way I was participating, and what intentions I had, within the company and within my own life.
What do you do? What do you do?
That
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
I was going to say that leads really well into another question that I've got for you. With the success that you've seen from Kraus and with your different insanely cool parts that look great, but even potentially more important, perform so well and add such an advantage to riders and their bikes. What are you, besides your R&D, and I guess maybe that might be the answer, and especially bringing your son in, which is insanely cool. But what are you doing to stay innovative in an industry that's constantly evolving? And what is motivating you to continually push the boundaries outside of
And
just that dollar sign, you know?
yeah, that's it's a good question. That's a great question. Uh, that's a hard thing to do.
Mhm.
It's hard um, it's hard to stay, for me at least, within a certain kind of um, perspective for a long time. I listen to a lot of different kind of music, right? I'll listen to, you know, hip hop. I was big into hip hop, classic rock, heavy metal, punk rock, like everything,
Mhm.
right? Just I'll listen to everything.
Mhm.
And I change my music a lot, but I'll get into a type of music and I'll sit with a type of music for months sometimes,
Mhm.
right? I'll just be, well, I'm super into punk rock right now, and it'll
Yeah.
be,
I'm the
months of
same
just
way,
being
man.
total, and it's stuff that I used to listen to when I was a kid. It's stuff
Yeah.
that, I know and
Pennywise and everything else.
yeah, but sometimes I'm just not listening to that as much. Right. And so
Yep.
what I like to do is I like to switch up not necessarily my surroundings, but what I'm involving myself with, right? So I do
Mhm.
that a lot with music. I do that a lot with different artistic or aesthetic um styles,
Mhm.
or design, right? Like there's a couple of things that I follow, in the ether about, just design, and just like, what are other people doing out there with design, and it's not motorcycle related at all. It's just
Did
Yeah.
other stuff out there.
anyone hit
I,
you particularly?
um, I don't know. I mean, right now it's like I've always been really into graffiti.
Nice.
Sweet.
And so I have there's some artists out there, there's some street artists that, I follow that are that just do just some amazing work. Industrial design, there's some industrial design stuff out there that, I pay attention to and a lot of that stuff kind of it kind of comes back around. There's not a lot of really
Hmm.
new, things, but it's almost like for
Sure.
me, it's tuning. For me, it's about tuning. I want to go look at this stuff. Sometimes I'm totally into like, I'm just going to go dig into Porsche and go
Hmm.
look at like the history of Porsche for,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks and
Right,
just
right.
Mhm.
dig in and, see what that's all about and love it and enjoy it and poke around and, whatever, skyscraper, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
that's cool. Like, how was that built? And who
Right, right,
designed
right.
that?
Amazing,
Designed
man. Yep.
that? Like, so, a lot of like different, just trying to pull in different information and understand things
Hmm.
in different ways, getting different perspectives on things. Um, on the motorcycle side, that's a little hard for me to it's been hard for me to um like go up go outside of what I really enjoy and what I really love,
Hmm.
right? It's
Hmm.
I was never like, hey, I'm gonna go out and make parts for somebody else.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. It was I'm gonna make the stuff that I want to run.
Yep.
What do I
Hmm.
wanna put on my bike? Like,
Right,
that's what I'm gonna design,
Yeah.
that's what I make, and
right.
so, um, for me to, like, go, "Yeah, well, hey, we're gonna take this to a new world, we're gonna take this to a new scene and whatever it is, a new style," like, I kinda gotta put myself there. I kinda gotta go out and I gotta go out and buy the new Pan America and jump on it and go have some fun with it so that I can start to play with it and build a product
Customize
line
it, do
off
the
it
things you want off of it.
that I wanna
Hmm.
ride, and it's never really reactive. I've never taken the reactive standpoint through the company or through my own kind of concept and development. It's never like, "Hey, I think this would be great in the market. This is gonna sell a lot, or people are gonna like this or that." I'm gonna make that for myself and let's see. Let's see if
Let's see where
anybody
it
else
Yeah.
goes. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Hey, well,
and that's why Kraus has always grown through word of mouth.
and
It's
going
always
Hmm.
going back on those questions, I've always been interested in asking you this question, kind of like you're an innovator yourself. So like you're saying, you try it on your stuff first before you see where it goes. You're not doing it to mass produce it, you're doing it. So growing up in Cali, which is, humongous motorcycle building state, where there's a
mm,
lot of great bike builders that come from there and so on. Was there anybody you admired kind of growing up? I mean, I know you were the shit you built is ridiculous, but I'm saying, was there anybody? This kind of like a two-part
oh,
question, but was there anybody that kind of influenced you a little bit coming
oh
up?
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'd
And the
love to hear.
motorcycle Yeah, and the motorcycle stuff was Shinya Kimura, and Chica,
Chica,
and,
Chica was badass.
uh, you know, uh, who else was really, big ones? I mean, the whole Japanese scene to me, like, all the Japanese builders, and still to this day, I'm like,
So underrated too, man.
they
They never
always
get
just
credit.
yeah, and it's just always the best stuff ever, and I mean, it's just the amazing thing is they can take something and they might not necessarily develop that style, develop the, you know, scene or genre, but take it and then make it, beyond 100%, right? Just make it amazing.
Yeah.
And so, the hot rod scene, um, you know, uh, is a big influencer. Um, as far as chop, I mean, Jesse James, all the guys that have really have would influence anybody else have
Right,
influenced me,
Hmm.
right.
in a lot of ways. And I think, there are certain other people that stand out that I watch, Roland Sands, friend of mine, um, love the guy. He's always influenced me. I thought he was doing the most bitchin' shit ever back in the day, you know what
Right,
I mean?
right.
And so he was a big influence, of course. Um, they I mean, the list is just massive,
I got you.
right?
I got you.
And I'm influenced by people building, old school choppers, and I'm influenced by people building, sport bikes. Jeff Wright, for instance, just an amazing creative person, an artist, amazing mind, bike builder,
Right.
can see things that just other people can't see. And so, yeah, Gard Hollinger, have a friend, Dave Hurley, who used to work in Exile, and he was one of the guys who really, I, we became close friends with, and he really was influential to my entrance into the motorcycle industry, and he was a big influence on me. He was, the bikes that he was into, what he was riding, the bikes he was working on. He's more of a classic guy. He likes the old Triumphs and he likes old dirt bikes, and but he's a Harley guy as
Right.
well.
Right.
So there's all these different. I've been always influenced by dirt bikes and the motocross scene. My perfect motorcycle, my perfect like image of a motorcycle is a dirt bike, is a motocross bike.
That's
That's what a
amazing.
motorcycle should look like.
That's amazing.
It's like that's what it should look like.
Your
And so
first love, and it's still your first love.
yeah, and it's still I spend 90% of my time on wheels on a dirt bike. So
Right.
you know,
That's cool.
um,
So what's in the garage, man? What do you got? What do you got for bikes? Whatever you want to say. I mean, you don't have to. Let's do this. Uh,
yeah.
tell me your top 3 in your garage and the one you love to ride the most.
Um. Okay, so top 3.
Are they all your
Oh,
builds?
that's hard because yeah, they'd probably be all top 3 would be builds of mine for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I would probably put number 1 is a bike called Dynamite,
Okay.
which is a bike I built in 2012. It's aluminum. It's got aluminum bodywork. It's a Dyna. Uh, it's a 2003 Dyna, which I built up into a kind of a large supermoto bike. So Dynamite. It's got an aluminum tank with an orange kind of stripe down the center.
What do you have for
Um,
motor in there? What do you run it for an engine?
that is a custom built 107.
Okay.
With we took 3.7 pounds out of the 3.78 pounds out of the flywheel. We overboard that thing to a 107, and it's got BST wheels and all the brakes and the inverted stuff and all the suspension, 14 or yeah, like 15 and a half inch shocks on the rear. It's all jacked up off the ground. That thing, the motor, was built by a guy named Dave Bozzi, who's my motor builder and has been for many, many years. Some guys will know him. He's a sleeper. That thing revs to 8,500 RPM
Holy
and
shit.
will come on like a 2-stroke at about 4,000 RPM, about 3,900 RPM. That thing hits like a 2-stroke, and it'll start bringing the wheel up on the
Wow.
highway in fifth gear if you're just on it. And it's just an amazing bike. It's a high horsepower, high revving engine, and I had him build it for really more of like road racing type of an engine. So I wanted high revs. Like I keep that flywheel spinning.
Understand.
And so, but it is kind of got this too. I even did like the way I did the exhaust pipe pulls from some theories around 2-stroke exhaust. And so, just to get that thing to hit at a certain time to hit it at 4,000. That's a great bike. I've also got, another great bike is my FXR is the FXR I did for, with, Hot Bike. I built it for Hot Bike magazine.
Yep.
Seen that one.
And that's got a big 131 cubic inch.
That's the
gym
gyms, right? Yeah.
on a titanium exhaust and
Thing is sick.
it's just stupid because that bike, I took it to the racetrack one time and it was like, I couldn't even ride it on the racetrack because, coming out of corners, if you just touch it, that back end just wants to come out from underneath you.
Wow.
It's just too light. It's got too much power, but
Gotcha.
you can, from a stop sign, you can, hammer that thing and light the wheel up and, you're all the way through third gear sideways, down the road. And it's just, you get off that bike and you're like this, you're just shaking, it's
You still
wild.
doing all the crazy shit with wheelies and all that stuff?
Not as much. I mean, dirt bike stuff, but
Right.
on the street, I'm,
It hurts.
Yeah.
As we get older, it hurts more, man.
yeah, I've slowed down a lot on the street. Just because I got to a point where I felt like it's not borrowed time. It's just like, look,
Oh, no.
cause I've hit the
Good
ground.
decision. Good decision.
Just, you know what? I got a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of people.
For sure.
I got a lot of families that rely on me now. It's not
Yeah,
just,
man. It's not just
it's not even just my family. It's, other people. So
Yeah.
I've paid a lot more attention, but yeah, it's still fun. I'd still like to go out and go for a rip,
Sure.
And then maybe another one would be my Indian. I got a little Indian Scout that I built in 2000.
Nice.
Well, it was an Indian project as well. Like that was 2017, 16 or 17. I built that. And it's up off the ground and, just a little road racer, kind of sport cruiser road race bike. And it's just super fun to ride. Thing
Nice.
is just really fun to ride. It does everything great.
Does your wife ride too?
She has, but no, not really.
Not
She
anymore.
go to be on back and check out the scenery. And
Right.
whatnot.
How about your boy?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. What's he riding?
he's a ride dyno. He's got a dyno.
Nice.
Well,
My kid sent me a text today that he's 17, that he signed up for his because I teach him how to ride, so he signed up for his class. So I'm like so stoked, man. This summer we're
Nice.
gonna do a father-son trip together where he can ride his own bike. So I'm totally looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, riding with your kid is really, really awesome. My son, we've been riding dirt bikes together since he was 4 years old, and so that's what we do. We go out on the weekend, go
Nice.
handle the dirt together, and so it's fun because there was a time when I was like, yeah, I'm not letting you get your motorcycle license, like you can ride on the road, and then it was kind of like, well, you can ride on the road, but first you got to beat me on a racetrack.
Oh
And he was like, on a racetrack, and I was like, any of your choice, let's go. You can go. Check. And eventually that turned into like, okay, you're good enough that you can go do whatever you want. So
Yep.
he spends a little time on the road, but he's like me. He sticks to the dirt most of the time.
Cool.
But dynas, we still love dynas. I mean, I got baggers and stuff like that too. That I've got a nice 2023 Road Glide.
Nice.
It's
So
all set up.
you take your wife on the back on that
I'll
one.
take that out, if I need some bags or something. But like, if I'm gonna choose a bike, it's gonna be a dyno. I way over my Softail. Like I've got a 20 Softail S, and that thing's built up too. But I just would prefer a dyno.
Yeah.
Oh, they're nice, man. They're just more fun. Like you were saying in the beginning of the show, when you talked about, our size, you're 5'5", I'm 5'8", 5'9", so I'm not a big guy myself. So can I handle those bikes? No problem whatsoever. But my preference for just cruising around and enjoying, man, I jump on my old 96 Softail, or I got a 89 Springer. I jump on. They're just more fun for me. And then when my wife comes on, we jump on the Road King, and it's a little more
Yeah.
comfortable, and we can ride together. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just so much more fun on a lighter bike because you can just do so much.
Yeah, agile, and dynos are fun because you're upright. You're sitting way up the ground. The seat is higher. I like that. That's what I don't like about the new Softail. Is just the seat's too low. So,
Yeah.
well, we do some modifications for that, but like the dynas, the way they sit, it's closer to a dirt bike. it's upright. I can throw that thing around. I'm super comfortable with it. I can jump on any Dyna and have that thing sideways and feel good with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just know those bikes really well. And they seem to, yeah, they're fun for me.
Can I ask you a question from somebody who's, I mean, the Dyna's been your bike for forever. You've done a lot of modifications. What have you found between when in 17 they went to the soft from the is what's the biggest difference you found between the two? Because I still like the 17 and older personally, but yes, the new ones are nice that they're making. But what's your personal thing with this? Did you like the
Yeah.
shocks? Do you like the swing arm? What are you feeling with these new Dynas?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's gone to a soft tail. And so when they shifted to a soft tail and they go to monoshock, what they tried to do is they tried to keep the triangle in the frame and that look of that rigid, that kind of old school, low seat, kind of low fender, look.
Right.
And, and what they missed is they missed the ergonomics. They got that wrong. You go sit on a soft tail and the soft tail is not comfortable for anything. Doesn't matter what size you are. The soft tail is not comfortable. The seat's too low. The foot controls are too far forward. The bars, the handlebar setup is all right, but it just doesn't fit well. The bike feels sluggish and slow. It feels soft, right? So from the factory, you take that thing off the showroom floor and it's like, it doesn't do anything. Thing
Right.
doesn't come on.
Right.
No, it's
Right.
just like, it feels like the whole thing is rubber mounted, everything,
Yeah.
and there's no grit. There's no, you fire up your twin cam Dyna and that thing rattles and shakes and it starts getting you
Yeah.
excited.
I
Get
know,
on it.
man. I know.
The
I love
soft
that
tail
shit.
is like, I don't even want to ride that thing because it's just soft.
It's too quiet
Um,
and peaceful. I know.
yeah. And so, so ergonomics, they wheelie, they're horrible wheeling. Like they suck when you try to rip a wheelie on those things.
Right.
Just you're not up high enough. You're not upright as much. And so that's number one. They got the geometry a little bit wrong with the front end. So, their triple trees, what's wrong? They have too much trail in that bike. And it makes it feel sluggish and it makes it floppy at slow speed. So, you turn the bars 15 degrees and the thing wants to fall over
Right. Right.
at miles an hour. And that just sucks when you're riding through a parking lot or you're just putting along. You want your bike to be stable. You want that thing to feel like, you can just touch it and it'll just move with you. And so,
Trust it.
different geometry. We did a set of triple trees for that thing. The access trees which completely liven that bike up and make it feel way closer to a Dyna. So
Nice.
seating position, triple trees to adjust the trail. Rear end of that bike is not bad, except that swing arm is very heavy because you have to transmit all that force from basically from your axle up to a single point in the for the shock.
Yep.
And and so they're heavy in the rear, and they are the geometry is not quite right in the rear. Really, the rear needs to get off the ground. So another thing we've done with the wings is we've developed the longest shock that you can actually put on there. With O-wings, that's going to be
The
coming out
single
soon.
shock you're talking about?
Yeah, the mono shock.
The
And
mono
then we've
shock.
got things like some little shock adapters that you can bolt onto that
Do it.
to extend it even further.
Wow.
The storm actually hits the frame, so you got to grind the frame off a little bit if you really want to get it pitched down. But those are the things you have to do to get that bike to start to feel alive and start to feel agile and fun. And if you're just commuting, if you're just going to pull that thing out of your garage and you're going to, cruise down the road and you're just going to, just want a nice smooth ride, it's a great bike. The M8's a great motor.
Yeah.
you got a lot of low end torque. As long as you don't get that thing over 5,000 RPM, you're going to be fine.
Shoot.
But as soon as you want to, have some fun on that bike, it just doesn't perform, doesn't do
Gonna
what
fight you.
you want it to do. You try to
Right.
pitch that thing sideways, and get it to spit the rear end out a little bit, and the stability is different, and
Right.
the stability is not quite what you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, making those adjustments, yeah, we have to make adjustments on dynos too. You go out and you get a stock dyna, and it's going to act very differently than the dynos that I like to ride. The dynos I ride, I put long shocks on the
Of
rear,
course.
14 shocks in the rear. I'll do at least a cartridge kit and triple treats with different geometry.
You go 14s on the back? You choose the 14s for the back? Okay.
Yeah, I always
That's
do
good to know.
14. Yeah. And then, or an inverted front end, lighten the wheels up, like there's different things, right? You don't need to do as much like seating position change on a Dyna or even bar position change
Mhm.
as you do on like a Softail, but
Right.
you still have to do stuff to a Dyna to make it do these things too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Softail, and then, so I think the motor, I really like the M8 motor. I've grown to like the M8 motor, but again, like I don't like a stock M8. I've got a 117 in my bagger, and I had Moonshine do a bunch of work to it, cams and intake,
Right. Right.
just hot rod the thing because I wanted to liven it up. So the M8s are good, but again, they need work. They're just soft. They come on kind of soft and they don't hit. And I like stuff to hit. When
Right.
I pop that throttle, I want that thing to I want it to hit.
Right.
So what's
And,
your bagger doing now after all the work? What are you about a one you in the 130 range or?
Yeah, I think it's in that 130, 127, 130 horsepower
Gotcha.
Nice.
range. But it comes on like the dyno sheet is just like boom at 2000 RPM, 2500 RPM, it comes on,
Yep.
right? And it just rides it all the way out to 5500 RPM, and then it's off. So it's
Got
got this nice, just a hard hitting flat line,
Got it.
and it's just makes that thing really usable and fun to ride.
Nice.
And it allows you to ride it at a lower RPM. I was very used to riding bikes at high RPM, so I always really like to tune my engine so that they would run at high RPM. And everything I'd be running at 5,500, 6,000 RPM. That's what I like.
Right.
Get on the M8, and it's like you can't do that. So you got to figure out how to get that bike to perform at 3,500 RPM, 4,000 RPM in that range, right? And so there's some good stuff coming out now. I really like what Jamie at Moonshine's doing. HPI, they do a fucking amazing job. There's some really good
Good
builders out there who are doing some nice work on the motor side, on the engine side.
Nice.
So yeah.
Sweet. All right. What advice would you give someone watching or listening who has a passion and they're not exactly sure what path or road to take to pursue it, or they're right there ready to go and they're afraid to take action, or what is it besides just getting out and doing that, taking that first step? Do you think they should educate themselves more, or
When it
you don't
comes
want to get into that analysis paralysis stuff, but what do you think?
not specifically in market, just overall in life.
Just entrepreneurial life, yeah.
Either or, yeah, or
Yeah,
both.
I've always been a take action person. I've always been like, I'm not prepared, but I'm just going to jump in anyways.
That's right.
But I have grown to understand the value of research and the value of gaining as much knowledge and understanding of some subject before you make a decision on that subject. So,
Mhm.
and I think that's come with, this opening of our society to data and to information.
Mhm.
Because I didn't go to school, I didn't really learn how to pull information from other people or other places very well. You know, it wasn't like, I mean, I knew what a library was and I could go use a library, but that wasn't the first place I was going.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, it, co- I think it's about passion. If you have a passion and you feel that need to engage with it, then follow your passion and do what makes you excited and gets you excited. Do what, you know, follow your interests. I don't think there's a wrong way to do things. I don't really subscribe to that like idea that, you know, right and wrong, that, you know, it should be this way or it should be that way, or everybody needs to go down the same road, or if you're going to be successful, you're going to do it like this. Um,
Mhm.
I think that we're all so different. We all have different, you know, so many um, things affect our personalities and our identities and our lives, that you have to choose how you're going to interact with your passion and
Mhm.
like how far you're going to take it, right? How far you're interested in taking it. I've got friends who, man, they are so much more informed about um, parts of motorcycles or motorcycles in general than I am, right? But they
Mhm.
have nothing to do with the motorcycle industry. They're just guys who
Hmm.
like motorcycles.
Right.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they do something else with their lives as far as their money or their career goes. But they know about the subject and they love the subject and they understand it,
Mhm.
pay attention to it, and they engage with it. You know what I mean? And there's
Yeah.
there's something amazing about that. And sometimes I have had that thought over the years, like, man, I wish I didn't work in motorcycles. I wish I could just enjoy them, because it's different when you go to work with them every day, right?
Yeah.
It's like the cobbler's, you know, children wear no shoes, or,
Sure,
you know,
I agree.
whatever. It's it's the same thing. I mean, I have a lot
Mhm.
of motorcycles, but the reality is I don't spend as much time on a motorcycle as I'd like to. Like,
Mhm.
well, who of us does, right?
Right.
But
Right.
I have friends out there who, you know, work a different industry and they go 9 to 5, and then guess what? All weekend long they're riding their motorcycles, and
Mhm.
I'm in the shop. I'm not
Mhm.
riding my motorcycle all weekend. You know, if I'm lucky, I get to go out and spend, you know, 4, 5 hours on my dirt bike on a Sunday or something. But like most of the time I'm working there during the weekend,
Sure.
you know, so
Mhm.
I think it's know yourself and dig into what you're passionate about and decide on what level you make a strong decision, an intentional
Yeah. A
decision
decision.
about what level and how far do you want to go with your passion. What way
Right.
do you want to engage with your passion? Because, you know, the thought is that it's going to be great to work in my passion. It's going to be great to have a job where I get to do this every day, all day long. And sometimes it is. Like, I got one guy who's on my R&D team. He's also studying to be an engineer. He's a young guy named Joe.
Mhm.
He's a great kid, super smart, loves motorcycles, has been riding motorcycles his whole life. I don't, he does own a car, but I don't see him. He does, you know,
Always
he's
on the
never,
bike.
doesn't matter what weather it is,
For
he's on
sure.
a bike. Um, and he's all about it. His passion is massive. He's, you know, and when I see him, it also brings it to me. And I also reflect on what I love about it. Right. And I see it in him. And so surround yourself with other people who also have the passion, or surround yourself with other people who have some
Excellent.
experience,
Excellent
and
advice.
get into the community of it and engage in some intentional way. Don't fall into things. Don't let yourself fall into anything. Don't let yourself
Mhm.
just happen to be there. It was the right place. It was the right time. Yeah, that stuff happens all the time, right? But
Mhm.
it's led by intention. And if you tune into intention and you say, you know what, I'm going to approach this subject, I'm approach whatever subject with intention for myself,
Mhm.
for my career, for whatever way I'm going to engage with this thing, you have a very different output than if you let yourself fall into it and just kind of ride the wave, so to speak, right?
Yep, yep.
You
Yeah.
dig in and go figure out what part of that wave you want to ride
Yep.
and ride it the way you want to ride it and what it's going to do for you. And think about what it's going to do for you in the short term and in the long term. And is this a community that you want to hang out with? That was a big one for me. It was like the motorcycle industry, the motorcycle community. Like there's a massive motorcycle community out there that I engage with that I super enjoy. There's other parts of the motorcycle industry that I don't engage with because I don't want to be a part of it.
Yep.
Right. And so it's the same thing with any subject. Like, what are you engaging with? You know, the people that you're engaging with, or the people who are involved with that subject, people that you want to be around, you want to engage with. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Great advice.
know, we fall into things and we let ourselves fall into things. And then all of a sudden, you know, I don't know, 10 years goes by and you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Right.
Like I don't understand why I kind of fell into this, you know, and I think that's I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but it's definitely something that I've realized and paid attention to. And as I realized that and paid attention to it more and more over my life, I've been able to achieve more. I've been able to be more successful. I've been able to design my life and live my life the way that I felt like I wanted to, rather than just it kind of coming to me or, you know, finding myself in places. I put myself in places, and that's done with, I think, with intention. So I tell my
intention.
You know, every single step of your life, and I'm talking about every step. Like when you pick up one leg and move it to the next position, do it with intention.
That's right.
Every step.
That's an incredible answer, man.
I mean, exactly what you said. I mean,
Wow.
just the fact that you said what you said when I asked you about the wheelies and all that stuff, where you went from the daredevil stuff of being an individual to your mindset of now it's not just me and my little group. Now I'm responsible for a large group. I've got to make right decisions. And that's just part of the maturing process, man. That's getting kicked in the balls for a long time and then getting up and then continue to march, you know, and that's what it is, man. It's all learning and a lot of this youth, they'll get it as they get older with age and more experience. So, man, kick ass. Hey, listen, we got a speed round for you. All right. 2 minutes on the clock, 15 questions, man. We're going to wrap this up and we're going to have some fun. All right.
I got a question to add to it at the end too.
All right. Go ahead. We'll do it after.
All right.
Best motorcycle built.
Ooh, from an independent?
No, just whatever. It could be independent. It could be
All time. Anybody.
Oh, best motorcycle built. Oh man, I don't think we're gonna get through this in 15 minutes. That's for sure.
15 questions, 2 minutes, man.
Best motorcycle built. I'd probably say the KLR 650.
It's okay. Best place you ever rode to and visited, city, state, or country on 2 wheels.
I'm gonna say my favorite rides were with Brian Shimke from TPJ Customs, back and forth to Sturgis, California to Sturgis.
Nice.
Many different routes we took, but just best roads we've ever found.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever ridden overseas? Like done anything in your travels?
No, I've ridden a little bit in Europe, but not really overseas.
Nope.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I need to. I'm really wanting to go to Japan to do some riding around.
That'd be cool,
Japan.
man. That's cool.
So
Fuel injected, carbureted, or electric?
I probably prefer fuel injection. Yeah, I mean, I'm a carbureted guy, you know, and I understand carbs and know them well, but yeah, you can, you know, just the throttle response you get with fuel injection.
Great.
Can't
Favorite style bike: cafe, sport bike, cruiser, or other?
Well, it's dirt bike would be
Dirt
my
bike.
favorite. But
Okay.
outside of that, it'd be cafe bike. Yeah, there's just something about the look and the styling.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Agreed. Favorite cruising speed: 40 to 50, 75 to 100, or 100 plus?
I'm a 75 to 100 guy. I've spent a lot of time at 120 miles an hour for a long time, but I feel more comfortable
in that range.
probably at 70 to 100 range, just generally. You know. What I
Okay.
mean?
Favorite riding road: curvy, straightaway, trails and dirt, or scenic?
Well, I'm a trails and dirt guy
Alright.
all the way, but definitely it would need curvy.
Curvy,
sure.
trail and dirt. All right. Favorite motorcycle movie of all time?
That's a probably a hard question for me because I probably have very little amount of time in front of screens
Gotcha.
compared to most people. But motorcycle movie, I'm not going to say motorcycle movie. I'm going to say a BMX movie.
Oh, okay.
Rad.
Oh, Rad. Yeah, yeah. That was a great movie. That was a great movie.
Because I think it would translate in the same way for me as a motorcycle movie.
Okay.
But I mean, on any given on any Sunday, obviously would be the right answer. It's just that for me, like probably Rad would be the most more influential.
Favorite book you ever read?
I'm gonna think about that for a minute.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Back to that.
Hero growing up. Who was your hero growing up when you were a kid? Could be anybody.
Let's see. Heroes. I don't know. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Okay, cool. That's a good one. If you can meet one person, past or present, to sit and have dinner with, who would it be?
I'd like to sit down with Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. I know. He's a good one. He's a good
Probably an easy one. I mean, Elon Musk would be another one that I'd be like, you know what? But Joe Rogan would be an interesting conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Because he's had so many conversations.
Yeah,
you know what
man.
I mean?
Yeah, I know. He's unbelievable. He's good. God bless him. He's a self-made guy, man, too. So, one law you would change if you were president to help the motorcycle community?
I'd get rid of speed limits for motorcycles.
Oh shit. All right.
I
All
think
right.
it's- I think it's actually a major problem. I think causes a lot of accidents.
Do you think so? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I think motorcycles should pace at a different speed than cars. And I think that if you shifted that and let motorcycles have a different pace, then you would see much less accident.
Okay, that's cool. Go to alcoholic beverage.
It's probably, it's wine just because that's the only one I participate with.
Any specific wine you like?
Or pretty much anything as long as it's organic.
Okay, clean.
Organic
good, man.
wine. Non-organic.
Go to ice cream flavor.
Coffee.
Nice. Coffee, God. Outside of your wife, who's your all-time crush?
Yeah. I don't know if I can answer that one.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like past girlfriends or anything. More like
Well,
you know,
stars. Yeah.
stars.
Like,
Yeah. Just
I don't
stupid
know.
shit.
Because again, I'm not very good with like names. Like
Okay.
I don't have a vocabulary of like movie stars
Got it.
or something like that. I'd probably come up with somebody, but it's probably not it's not a typical
Typical
be some-
name that you'd see. All right. Last meal ever. What would it be?
Steak and potatoes.
Good call. All right, my man. Thank you so much for
All right,
taking. Go ahead. I'm gonna have Ben.
That last question. So this answer, you can change the answer depending on the stage that you're at. So you can answer it for when you're, you're young or currently and or both if it's the same answer, but MIG, TIG, or stick?
Oh, TIG all day long.
Do it. That's
No, there's no, don't even.
no question.
Yeah.
Did you
Well,
start
it's-
on a TIG?
I'm building, I started on a MIG. Now I probably started on stick actually, and then went to MIG and then to TIG. I still MIG. I'm building another company up in a town nearby Cedar City, building an anodizing facility right now. And so I'm
Cool.
doing a lot of the fabrication work for that facility, which is big mezzanines to hold all of our waste treatment facility and everything.
Yeah.
Massive mezzanine. So I've been doing a lot of actually MIG fabrication lately because I'm
Sweet.
sitting there building big steel mezzanines. So
You're never getting out of the grind, man. Never. Yeah, you're just a guy who likes it, man, too much. It's as much as you want to. I don't think you will.
Even if I would get to retire at some point, I would have a massive shop and machines and be building stuff all day because that's just what I want to do. That's what I like to do. Is
You're a true innovator, and on top of that, man, you're a good man. So truly appreciate you giving us the time. Are you going to Daytona this year?
there's a very good chance I'll be in Daytona.
It would be cool because we're only
Sweet.
like 2 hours up the road, so it'd be awesome, man, if we can grab dinner one night.
That'd be great. I'll hit you up for sure before the plans are made, and we'll make that happen.
All right,
Awesome.
that sounds cool. And if you need a bike, I'll have
Heck
one
yeah.
here for you. Okay? They're not fast like your shit, but
That's always.
but you could at least you'll have a bike to ride.
I'm sure they're great. I'm sure it's perfect.
All right,
Yeah, I
cool,
appreciate
man.
that.
Of course.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
you so
Sasha.
much.
This has been awesome.
Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you guys too.
Good luck. Keep kicking ass.
Really
man.
appreciate you, man. Have a good
We're
one.
big fans of yours. Talk to you later.
Thank- Bye.
See you.
Take care.